Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., former CIA analyst, former NSC chief of staff, and current president and CEO of the Center for Security Policy, Fred Fleitz. Fred, as a former CIA analyst, you look at what's going on just in this last week. We had the so-called whistleblower, or one of the whistleblowers, now there's multiple, I guess, say that the phone call to them traumatized them. It was frightening to them. But whether we have one whistleblower, two whistleblowers, or 500 whistleblowers, as a former CIA analyst, what difference does it make now that we have the phone transcript, which is almost verbatim of what transpired? Who cares what these whistleblowers think, especially if it's secondhand information?
That's exactly right, Graham. After you see this transcript, you realize that that's just a lot of hyperbole and exaggerations. And, you know, this isn't a whistleblowing case. This is a dispute over policy. This doesn't belong in the Intelligence Committee. It shouldn't have been brought to the attention of the Intelligence Community Inspector General. And I think the partisan motivations of the first whistleblower are becoming more and more apparent. He talked to the Intelligence Committee before he filed his complaint. We know that Adam Schiff talked about the substance of this complaint throughout the month of August. And the second whistleblower, isn't it interesting that that person appeared just as the credibility of the first whistleblower started to be called into question, but instead of filing his complaint, this whistleblower announced his intention to blow the whistle in the New York Times because he wanted to make sure he would do maximum damage to the president and pile on this rush to impeachment.
And it hit me, Fred, when I was hearing this hyperbole, as you referred to it, the whistleblower saying he or she was frightened by the phone call, was traumatized by the phone call. It hit me that CIA analysts are human beings and voters too, right? In other words, if in July of this year, this analyst caught wind of this conversation where the president asked a favor of a foreign president to continue investigating corruption, in particular possibly this deal that was brokered by the Vice President of the United States on behalf of his son, that could easily traumatize someone who is supporting Joe Biden, who is a Democrat operative. So certainly they're going to be traumatized by that because they want to protect their candidate.
Well, you know, this bias impeachment process is to keep Republicans from asking questions about Hunter Biden. Why was he getting $50,000 a month from a shady Ukrainian gas company? I think that this administration was perfectly within its rights to find out what was that about. And it's interesting that these so-called intelligence community whistleblowers, they're not blowing the whistle on that. They must have known about that during the Obama years. Funny that that didn't bother them.
Anything unusual at all when you look at the transcript? Not the whistleblower complaint, plenty unusual there. But when you look at the transcript, and you've read it now, probably multiple times, between the President of the United States and the President of Ukraine, anything unusual? Is it unusual for presidents to talk about helping out each other in terms of criminal investigations?
I think the whistleblower represented the president's style. He has an unconventional style. I've edited many transcripts of presidential phone calls with foreign leaders. And we know this president's thrown out the rule book for diplomatic relations. He does things very differently. He doesn't do things the way the swamp in Washington want him to do them. I would have recommended to the president that he not raise this, investigate the Bidens over the payments to Hunter Biden's son himself. I don't have a problem with the administration doing it, but I think in terms of optics and giving his opponents ammunition, I will say I would have advised him not to pursue that himself.
And now we have Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, coming out and saying, along with many other members of the Democrat caucus, that they need to somehow, quote, protect the identity of the whistleblower. Here's Nancy Pelosi. Roll tape.
Intelligence community respects the role of whistleblower. We all do in government, but in intelligence, protecting the whistleblower is absolutely essential so that there's no retribution or anything for speaking truth.
Why? Why would we have to protect? Many whistleblowers are out in public. We've seen whistleblowers testify in front of Congress. We've seen whistleblowers testify in an open courtroom. Why would we need to have to protect this person? This is one person who potentially is bringing down the President of the United States, potentially undoing the will of 60 million Americans who voted for Donald Trump. Don't we, Fred, have a right to know who this guy, gal, guys, and gals are?
I think that's right. Look, if this person's name is made public, and I think I know who it is, and most reporters in Washington know who it is, I'm sure One American News knows who it is, he's not going to be under any retaliation at the CIA. There are so many anti-Trump officials put in place by John Brennan. I don't think he'll be affected. And look, CIA Director Haspel, she's not going to tolerate retaliation against this guy. The left is going to throw him a parade. He's going to get book parties. He'll probably get a contract on MSNBC. But consider what the Democrats are trying to do. They're trying to bring down an elected president with a secret witness the American people can't hear from in a secret hearing where his identity will be shielded from the Republicans. He'll probably testify from a remote location, secret witnesses and secret hearings and take down a head of state. This is not communist China or the Soviet Union. This is the United States of America. This has to stop. The American people need to know who this person is. The president needs to hear from this person in person.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.